છે જો તો હું છે محمد وآل محمد صلوات سورة ملك أعوذ بالله من الشيطان اللعين الرجيم بفضل بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم تبارك الذي بيده الملك وهو على كل شيء قدير الذي خلق الموت والحياة ليبلوكم أيكم أحسن عملا وهو العزيز الغفور الذي خلق سبع سماوات طباقا ما ترى في خلق الرحمن من تفاوت فارجع البصر هل ترى من فطور ثم ارجع البصر كرتين ينقلب إليك البصر خاسئا وهو حسير ولقد زينا السماء الدنيا بمصابيح وجعلناها رجوما للشياطين واعتدنا لهم عذاب السعير والذين كفروا بربهم عذاب جهنم وبئس المصير إذا ألقوا فيها سمعوا لها شيئا وهي تفور تكاد تميز من الغيظ كلما ألقي فيها فوج سألهم خزنتها ألم يأتكم نذير قالوا بلى قد جاءنا نذير فكذبنا وقلنا ما نزل الله من شيء إن أنتم إلا في ضلال كبير وقالوا لو كنا نسمع أو نأكل ما كنا في أصحاب السعير فاعترفوا بذنبهم فسحقا لأصحاب السعير إن الذين يخشون ربهم بالغيب لهم مغفرة وأجر كبير وأسروا قولكم أو اجهروا به إنه عليم بذات الصدور ألا يعلم من خلق وهو اللطيف الخبير هو الذي جعل لكم الأرض ذلولا فامشوا في مناكبها وكلوا من رزقه وإليه النشور أأمنتم من في السماء أن يكسف بكم الأرض فإذا هي تمور أم أمنتم من في السماء أن يرسل عليكم حاصبا فستعلمون كيف نذير ولقد كذب الذين من قبلهم فكيف كان نكير أولم ير إلى الطير فوقهم صافات ويكبس ما يمسكهن إلا الرحمن إنه بكل شيء بصير أمن هذا الذي هو جند لكم ينصركم من دون الرحمن إن الكافرون إلا في غرور أمن هذا الذي يرزقكم إن أمسك رزقه بل لجوا في عتو ونفور أفمن يمشي مكبا على وجهه أهدى أمن يمشي سويا على صراط مستقيم قل هو الذي أنشأكم وجعل لكم السمع والأبصار والأفئدة قليلا ما تشكرون قل هو الذي زرعكم في الأرض وإليه تحشرون ويقولون متى هذا الوعد إن كنتم صادقين قل إنما العلم عند الله وإنما أنا نذير مبين فلما رأوه زلفة سيئت وجوه الذين كفروا وقيل هذا الذي كنتم به تدعون قل أرأيتم إن أهلكني الله ومن معي أو رحمنا فمن يجير الكافرين من عذاب أليم قل هو الرحمن آمنا به وعليه توكلنا فستعلمون من هو في ضلال مبين قل أرأيتم إن أصبح ماؤكم غورا فمن يأتيكم بماء معين صدق الله العلي العظيم الفاتحة.
صلوات على محمد وآل محمد. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما. الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله. أشهد أن محمدًا رسول الله. أشهد أن محمدًا رسول الله. أشهد أن عليًا ولي الله. أشهد أن عليًا أمير المؤمنين حجة الله. حي على الصلاة. حي على الصلاة. حي على الفلاح. حي على الفلاح. حي على خير العمل. حي على خير العمل. الله أكبر الله أكبر. لا إله إلا الله. لا إله إلا الله. وصل يا رب على محمد وعلى آله الطيبين الطاهرين.
أعوذ بالله السميع العليم من الشيطان اللعين الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الله أكبر الله أكبر. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله. أشهد أن محمد رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله وسلم. أشهد أن محمد رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله وسلم وأن عليا ولي الله عليه الصلاة والسلام. حي على الصلاة حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح حي على الفلاح. حي على خير العمل حي على خير العمل. قد قامت الصلاة قد قامت الصلاة. الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله. استغفر الله من كل ذنب وأتوب إليه. الله أكبر. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. إنا أعطيناك الكوثر فصل لربك وانحر إن شانئك هو الأبتر. الله أكبر. سبحان ربي العظيم وبحمده. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. سمع على من حمد. الله أكبر. سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. الله أكبر. أستغفر الله ربي وأتوب إليه. الله أكبر. سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. الله أكبر. بحول الله وقوته أقوم وأقعد. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. قل هو الله أحد الله الصمد لم يلد ولم يولد ولم يكن له كفوا أحد. كذلك الله ربنا. الله أكبر. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعجل فرجهم. ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعجل فرجهم. الله أكبر. سبحان ربي العظيم وبحمده. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. سمع على من حمده. الله أكبر. سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. الله أكبر. أستغفر الله ربي وأتوب إليه. الله أكبر. سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. الله أكبر. الحمد لله. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. بحول الله وقوته أقوم وأقعد. سبحان الله والحمد لله ولا إله إلا الله. سبحان الله والحمد لله ولا إله إلا الله. سبحان الله والحمد لله ولا إله إلا الله. الله أكبر. أستغفر الله من كل ذنب وأتوب إليه. الله أكبر. سبحان ربي العظيم وبحمده. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعجل فرجهم. لا إله إلا الله لا إله إلا الله لا إله إلا الله. سمع على لمن حمده. الله أكبر. سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. الله أكبر. أستغفر الله ربي وأتوب إليه. الله أكبر. سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعجل فرجهم. إلهي أنت كما نحب فاجعلنا كما تحب. الله أكبر. بسم الله وبالله والحمد لله. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. السلام عليك أيها النبي ورحمة الله وبركاته. السلام علينا وعلى عباد الله الصالحين. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر. لا إله إلا الله. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما. اللهم صل على آل محمد اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعجل فرجه. لا إله إلا الله. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. أستغفر الله الذي لا إله إلا هو الحي القيوم ذو الجلال والإكرام وأتوب إليه. أستغفر الله الذي لا إله إلا هو الحي القيوم ذو الجلال والإكرام وأتوب إليه. أستغفر الله الذي لا إله إلا هو الحي القيوم ذو الجلال والإكرام وأتوب إليه. الله أكبر. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. أعوذ بالله السميع العليم من الشيطان اللعين الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الله أكبر الله أكبر. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله. أشهد أن محمد رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله وسلم. أشهد أن محمد رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله وسلم وأن عليا حجة الله عليه الصلاة والسلام. حي على الصلاة حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح حي على الفلاح حي على خير العمل حي على خير العمل. قد قامت الصلاة قد قامت الصلاة. الله أكبر الله أكبر. لا إله إلا الله. استغفر الله من كل ذنب وأتوب إليه إنه كان توابا. الله أكبر. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. والعصر إن الإنسان لفي خسر إلا الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات وتواصوا بالحق وتواصوا بالصبر. الله أكبر. سبحان ربي العظيم وبحمده. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. سميع له لمن حمده. الله أكبر. سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. الله أكبر. أستغفر الله ربي وأتوب إليه. الله أكبر. سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. الله أكبر. بحول الله وقوته أقوم وأقعد. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. قل هو الله أحد الله الصمد لم يلد ولم يولد ولم يكن له كفوا أحد كذلك الله ربنا. الله أكبر. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعجل فرجهم. اللهم صل على فاطمة وأبيها وبعلها وبنيها والسر المستودع فيها بعدد ما أحاط به علمك. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعجل فرجهم. الله أكبر. سبحان ربي العظيم وبحمده. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. سميع له لمن حمده. الله أكبر. سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. الله أكبر. استغفر الله ربي وأتوب إليه. الله أكبر. سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. الله أكبر. الحمد لله. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. بحول الله وقوته أقوم وأقعد. سبحان الله والحمد لله ولا إله إلا الله. سبحان الله والحمد لله ولا إله إلا الله. سبحان الله والحمد لله ولا إله إلا الله. الله أكبر. استغفر الله ربي وأتوب إليه. الله أكبر. سبحان ربي العظيم وبحمده. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. سميع له لمن حمده. الله أكبر. سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. الله أكبر. أستغفر الله ربي وأتوب إليه. الله أكبر. سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. الله أكبر. بحول الله وقوته أقوم وأقعد. سبحان الله والحمد لله ولا إله إلا الله. سبحان الله والحمد لله ولا إله إلا الله. سبحان الله والحمد لله ولا إله إلا الله. الله أكبر. استغفر الله من كل ذنب وأتوب إليه. الله أكبر. سبحان ربي العظيم وبحمده. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعجل فرجهم. سميع له لمن حمده. الله أكبر. سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. الله أكبر. أستغفر الله ربي وأتوب إليه. الله أكبر.
سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعجل فرجهم. إلهي وربي وسيدي، اللهم ارزقنا شفاعة الحسين يوم الورود وزيارة الحسين إلى يوم القيامة.
الله أكبر. بسم الله وبالله والحمد لله. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له، وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. السلام عليك أيها النبي ورحمة الله وبركاته. السلام علينا وعلى عباد الله الصالحين. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. لا إله إلا الله. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما. لا إله إلا الله. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. أستغفر الله الذي لا إله إلا هو الحي القيوم ذو الجلال والإكرام وأتوب إليه. أستغفر الله الذي لا إله إلا هو الحي القيوم ذو الجلال والإكرام وأتوب إليه. أستغفر الله الذي لا إله إلا هو الحي القيوم ذو الجلال والإكرام وأتوب إليه.
Assalamu alaikum jami'an wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Before we continue with the rest of tonight's regular program, we'll have a short 10-minute Quran Khani session for the Salaat Thawab of Marhum Akbar Ali Kareem, as well as all other Marhumin.
صلوا علی محمد وآل محمد. جب یاد سکینہ کو تیری آتی ہے بابا، جب یاد سکینہ کو تیری آتی ہے بابا، سر زندہ کی دیواروں سے، سر زندہ کی دیواروں سے ٹکراتی ہے بابا، جب یاد سکینہ کو تیری آتی ہے بابا، کانوں سے ٹپکتا ہے لہو، شانوں پہ دیکھو، کانوں سے ٹپکتا ہے لہو، شانوں پہ دیکھو، ظالم کی اذیت، ظالم کی اذیت مجھے تڑپاتی ہے بابا، جب یاد سکینہ کو تیری آتی ہے بابا، دربار یزیدی میں بلا کیسے میں جاؤں ہے، دربار یزیدی میں بلا کیسے میں جاؤں، یہ چاخ گریباں حیاتی ہے بابا، جب یاد
یاد سکینہ کو تیری آتی ہے بابا، مر جاؤں گی پیاسی نہ کبھی، مانگوں گی پانی، مر جاؤں گی پیاسی نہ کبھی، مانگوں گی پانی، اصغر کی مجھے پیاس جو یاد آتی ہے بابا، جب یاد سکینہ کو تیری آتی ہے بابا، جب تک تیرے سینے پہ نہ سو جائے سکینہ، جب تک تیرے سینے پہ نہ سو جائے سکینہ، زندہ میں اسے نیند، زندہ میں اسے نیند کہاں آتی ہے بابا، جب یاد سکینہ کو تیری آتی ہے بابا، ہے کون میرے پاس جیوں، کس کے سہارے ہے کون میرے پاس جیوں، کس کے سہارے، تنہائی میری موت، تنہائی میری موت بنی جاتی ہے بابا، جب یاد سکینہ کو تیری آتی ہے بابا، سر زندہ کی دی दीवारों से टकराती है बाबा सल्लल्लाहु अला मुहम्मद व आली मुहम्मद सूरतुल मुबारकतुल फातिहा
Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Sayyid Hassan Rizvi, respected elders, dear brothers and sisters in Iman, Assalamu alaikum, Jameen wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Surah Fatiha is requested for all marhumin listed on the screen, as well as all other marhumin. Surah Al-Mubarak al-Fatiha. Dua Shfa Maris is requested for all those who need here and elsewhere, as well as those listed on the screen. Let us recite together. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. أَمَّا يُجِيبُ الْمُضْطَرَّ إِذَا دَعَاهُ وَيَكْشِفُ السُّوءَ 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 أَمَّا يُجِيبُ الْمُضْطَرَّ إِذَا دَعَاهُ وَيَكْشِفُ السُّوءَ. Ya Allah. A kind reminder that the Muharram and Safar Fund is still open, and we're currently about 35% short of meeting our target. Please see any member of the finance team to donate, or you may also donate using the QR code currently displayed on the screen. At this time, let us invite Sayyid Hassan Rizvi to please come forward for tonight's Majlis. Wa Muhammad wa Muhammad Salaat.
أعوذ بالله السميع العليم من الشيطان اللعين الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم وبه نستعين لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم والحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين بالقاسم المصطفى محمد ثم الصلاة والسلام والتحية والإكرام على أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين المظلومين ولعنة الله على أعدائهم أجمعين من الأولين والآخرين إلى قيام يوم الدين أما بعد صلوات على محمد وآل محمد. Mu'mineen, mu'minat, brothers and sisters in Islam and Iman, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Tonight on the 7th of Safar, we are commemorating the Shahadat, according to some reports, of our second Imam, Imam Hassan al-Mujtaba alayhi salatu wassalam. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad. Previously, we've talked before about the extreme level of generosity in the way that Imam Hassan alayhi salam gave his sadaqah. And we've talked that, this Imam obviously is no different than any of the other members of the Ahlul Bayt. They all gave what we would call and deem like extreme forms of sadaqah and charity. But we specifically talked about previously how Imam Hassan multiple times in his life had given half of his wealth away. And a few times in his life had given everything that he had away. Right? So when this happened, right, this brings up a lot of questions about what you and I are supposed to do in terms of giving sadaqah and giving charity, right? A lot of us, we hear this, we say, look, this is just not possible, right? How could somebody give away half of their savings or half of their wealth or all of their savings and wealth, right? It seems ridiculous. It seems impossible or improbable or impractical. And more so is that most of these, the giving of charity by the members of the Ahlul Bayt was all unconditional. Most of the time, people just came and asked, they explained their hajat, they explained their need, their issues, and the Imams just gave. So there was no sort of investigation, there was no sort of research. Again, the vast majority of times. There was a few other occasions, which we mentioned last time. So when we had mentioned this, some of us had these kind of questions like, okay, this sounds nice. It sounds really great in terms of the kirama and how amazing the personality of the members of the Ahlul Bayt are. Okay, it's great. But some people, sometimes when we look at these narrations, that little sort of rational bug inside of us responds and thinks and puts some doubt and says, okay, if the Imam multiple times is giving away, let's say half or even all of his wealth, then that must mean at certain times, especially if people were coming to them, constantly, there must have been many times that people were coming and the Imam must have had nothing. Because obviously he had enough to take care of his own family, of course. And now, if a handful of times he's giving away all of his wealth, that means he's got nothing there. So now just imagine, he gives away, one person comes, he gives away everything he has. Now 5 minutes later, if somebody else comes and says, Imam, give me something. If there's nothing to give, what is the Imam going to do? How many times have we looked at the narrations which mention, okay, what do the Ahlul Bayt do when there's nothing to offer? Right? Because we said the Sira normally, for a lot of them, is at certain times, for certain individuals, they give away everything. So there must be something specific that they do, and it has to go beyond simply, as we've learned growing up, okay, even a smile is sadaqah. Well, we would assume that the Ahlul Bayt are not just going to say, smile, sorry, I've got nothing, and kind of send them on their way. So there must be something different that's going on here. So I want to share just one narration from the life of the Imam to maybe use as a foundation to open up a few points about this discussion. Inshallah, if you can recite a salawat ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. There's, whole sections dedicated to the amount of charity and the various instances where the Imam, again, would give his sadaqah. So there's only one that I want to focus on right now. So the report goes, جَاءَهُ فَقِيرٌ يَشْكُو حَالَهُ. He says, so a faqir, poor person, comes to the Imam, يَشْكُو حَالَهُ. Right? He starts doing shikayat and complaining about his situation. Right? وَلَمْ يَكُنْ عِنْدَهُ شَيْءٌ فِي ذَلِكَ الْيَوْمِ. At that day, that precise day, the Imam had nothing. There's nothing that he could have offered. فَعَزَّ عَلَيْهِ الْأَمْرِ. And this situation, this issue, meaning the person coming, complaining, explaining his situation to the Imam, and the Imam having nothing, it bore down on the Imam. Literally, the word عَزَّ عَلَيْهِ is that it made the Imam feel bad. وَأَسْتَحَى مِنْ رَدِّهِ. That the Imam felt shy, he felt ashamed. He had haya from just sending this person away empty-handed. He didn't like that. Right? He literally just felt ashamed. He didn't want to send him away like this. فَقَالَ لَهُ. So then he says to this poor person, he says, إِنِّي أُدَلِّكَ عَلَى شَيْءٍ يَحْصُلُهُ لَكَ مِنْهُ الْخَيْرِ. He says, I can point you to something, I can show you something that will lead you to getting some khair. Another way of saying that, I know what you're looking for. You're looking to get your financial situation solved, without the Imam just saying, I don't have anything. He says, I can show you something and lead you to something that maybe will help you out. Right? That'll lead you to khair. And he's, again, phrasing it in a sense as a question as well, too. Because the person could respond and say, look, man, I just want a handout. I just want some money. Right? Give me that. So the faqir responds, فَقَالَ الْفَقِيرُ يَبْنَ رَسُولِ اللَّهِ مَا هُوَ. It's like, okay, well, what are you talking about? What is this that you can lead me to? Imam says, قال اذهب إلى الخليفة. So go to the Khalifa. فإن ابنته قد توفيت وأنقطع عليها. He says, go to the Khalifa because just recently his daughter passed away. وَانْقَطَعَ عَلَيْهَا. And it's destroyed him. He's in a severe state of depression because of it. وَمَا سَمِعَ مِنْ أَحَدٍ تَعْزِيَ بَلِيغًا. So far, no one has gone for ta'ziyah yet. Nobody's gone to offer him condolences. فعزه بهذه الكلمات. He says, so go to him and perform ta'ziyah, go offer him condolences, and I'm going to tell you what exactly it is you should say to him. يحصل لك منه الخير. If you do this, then khair, some goodness will come to you. So he says, so the person responds, قال يا ابن رسول الله حفظني إياها. He says, okay, tell me and I'm going to memorize it. Tell me what to do and I'll say it. So he gives him these lines. He says, say to this Khalifa, الحمد لله الذي سترها بالجلوسك على قبرها ولا هتكها بجلوسها على قبرك. Just say that to him. And I'll give you the translation. It says, Alhamdulillah, so, all praise be to Allah, الذي, the one, سترها بجلوسك على قبرها. So, alhamd, all praises for Allah, the one who has covered her, through your sitting on her qabr. Sounds strange, right? It's covered her through you sitting on her qabr, on her grave. وَلَا هَتَكَهَا بِجُلُوسِهَا عَلَى قَبْرِكَ. And Allah has not defamed you or insulted you or ruined her through her sitting on your qabr. What does this mean? Basically, this is a fancy poetic way of saying that Allah could have insulted you by having you die first and her having to grieve over your death. But instead, He decided to take her first instead of you, so that you, somebody with more izzah, more esteem, somebody who can handle it, you could sit on her grave instead. Right? So this is a very simple way, in these kind of short 2 lines, of saying, flip your idea around, that this in a sense was something good for you, it was khair for you. Right? This is a way that, he wanted to give him grief. So he goes to the Khalifa, says these lines, and when this happens, then the report says that his grief, his huzn came down right away. And he thanked him for saying these words. He says, yes, now I've calmed down a bit. These words, they relieved my grief. But then he thinks to himself, he says, Billah alayka kalamaka hadha? He says, hold on a second. Are these your words that you just said? Is this from you? Did you make this up? And this faqir says, Allamanihu al-Hassan ibn Ali alayhi salatu wassalam. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala. He says, no. This was taught to me by Hassan ibn Ali. Right? He taught this to me. So the Khalifa responds. It doesn't say who it was, but khair. He says, Sadaqta. He's like, yes, you've told the truth. فَإِنَّهُ. So this person, يعني Hassan ibn Ali, ذُو فَصَاحَ وَحَلَاوَ فِي الْكَلَامِ. So Hassan ibn Ali, this person is a person who owns, he is the master of fasaha, right? Having this power of words. فِي الْكَلَامِ وَالْحَلَاوَ. That everything that comes out of his mouth is sweet. So they recognize that, of course, this is something that comes from the Ahlul Bayt alayhim wa salatu wa salam. Salawat ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. So let's go back and let's analyze this, and I think 3 points that maybe we want to take apart over here. The first is this. The faqir comes to the Imam. He explains and does shikayat of his situation, right? The Imam, normally in a situation, he wants to obviously give something, some small amount, and in other cases, larger amount, sometimes half his wealth, sometimes all of his wealth. The hadith says that the fact that the person came to him complaining, looking for a way for the Imam to help him out, he had nothing to give. There was nothing at that point that the Imam could offer him. This made the Imam feel ashamed. This made him feel that hayat and that shyness. He didn't want this person just to be sent away empty-handed. Right? In other riwayat, it mentions how the Ahlul Bayt, they felt like it was a disgrace to their name, to the name of their forefathers, to the Ahlul Bayt, to send people away when they came to them for their hajat. Right? So this was a normal way that people would come to the Ahlul Bayt expecting not just something that they'd ask for, they would always expect better. So the Imam is now shy, like, what am I going to do for this individual, right? So the first thing is this. There's 2 parts of this. There is the individual coming to the Imam, and then the Imam himself. The individual, for at least what it seems like from the riwayah, he has no sense of shame, he has no shyness whatsoever. He comes straight to the Imam, explains the situation, does shikayat, and that's it. It's the Imam who feels ashamed and shy, that he has nothing to offer. Now, let's be honest with ourselves. When this situation takes place, right, with us, whether we're overseas or whether it's, we're being asked for funding for whatever reason over here, whether it's somebody who's in need, whether it's for Project Orange, whether it's for the Muharram Safar budget, whatever it is, where does the shyness actually come in? Where do we put the feeling of shame? We usually put it on the other party. We put ourselves on a higher pedestal, right? We try to feel a bit more proud. We say, I've got nothing, sorry, or go to somebody else. Especially when it comes to the fuqara, or people who are actually in need, right? Like, aren't you ashamed to come and ask us? Aren't you ashamed that you're not out working, doing something for this? Like, why are you coming to me? Well, why are you doing something like that? This person, who probably does feel shame, like it's a tough thing for an individual to come and ask for something, usually that person, the one who's in need, who actually has that help, they're the ones who are shamed and shy. It takes a lot to go and ask somebody for anything, especially for money, especially when they need help at home, when they have to make their rent, buy basic things that, it's wajib on their shoulder for a man to take care of their family. If they can't do it, they have to go ask somebody else. We all know that's a shot to our ego. It's very, very difficult when we're unable to become the breadwinners and provide for our families properly. So it's very difficult. So that shyness usually comes from the person asking. And the sort of being, let's say, brazen and just going forward and saying anything, in our situation, usually comes from us, the ones who might be in a situation to help somebody out. But the Ahlul Bayt have flipped it around and say, no, we're ashamed when somebody can come to us, meaning we set up a situation that you shouldn't feel ashamed coming to us. We want you to come and explain your situation to us. We want you to be able to come and say, yes, when we come to the Ahlul Bayt, they'll take care of whatever we need. So that is the situation, that's what they're trying to set up. And they're also saying for a follower of ours too, we should feel ashamed if somebody's coming and we have nothing to give them. Or if it's a small amount that, we can't, that's really not going to take care of somebody's hajat. So the first thing that it's completely flipping something around. And it really shows how our understanding of the deen, whether it was something that's happened from us moving over to the West and our ideology about welfare and helping the fuqara and masakeen has flipped, I don't know what it is exactly, but this thing has been addressed in the Quran as well too. That these levels of changing the way the deen has prescribed taking care of those in need, we flipped it around completely. And it's been mentioned in the Quran that back then this happened too with some individuals. In Surah al-Ma'un, Surah al-Ma'un takes this, and there's many surahs which address this, but Surah al-Ma'un I think is one of the most powerful ones. So let's just go through that shortly, if you can recite a salawat ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. It's short, right? I think seven ayat, very short. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. أَرَأَيْتَ الَّذِي يُكَذِّبُ بِالدِّينِ فَذَلِكَ الَّذِي يَدُعُ الْيَتِيمِ وَلَا يُحُضُّ عَلَى طَعَامِ الْمِسْكِينِ فَوَيْلٌ لِلْمُصَلِّينَ الَّذِينَ هُمْ عَنْ صَلَاتِهِمْ سَاهُونَ الَّذِينَ هُمْ يُرَاءُونَ وَيَمْنَعُونَ الْمَاعُونَ. This ma'un is the most important part of this, but let's go back. First one. Have you seen a person who does takdeeb of the deen? Denies it, rejects it, or starts making lies about the deen? This person, right, this is somebody who even drives away yatim. They push them away. Like, forget it. And then this third one is the more important one. وَلَا يُحُضُّ عَلَى طَعَامِ الْمِسْكِينِ. That this person, and this, I don't know what translation's up here, right? So over here it says, does not urge others to feed the poor. Hudd is inciting. It's like an extreme form of pressure on somebody. That's the way it should be. So this saying, this person, not only will they not give out themselves, they're going to start discouraging other people. And the way that Allah is describing it is the exact opposite, is that they will not go and push each other and push one another to go and, yes, help as many poor people as you can. The opposite, right? They're discouraging everybody. No, don't take care of them. Don't help them out. Let them take care of themselves, right? Whatever rationalization there is. Allah's called that out from that time. And look, in the beginning, Allah's saying, these are the same people who lie about the deen. They're thinking what they're doing is Islamic. So Allah's saying, no, you're liars. This is not the way, this is not the deen that I have prescribed. This is not the Islamic social welfare system that I have put down, right? The ones who push away people who have hajat, that's not the deen that Allah has put down, and that's not the seerah of the Ahlul Bayt as well. And then he continues, فَوَيْلٌ لِلْمُصَلِّينَ, right? The people who are offering salah, he's like, woe to them, meaning damn them. Why? Because these are the ones, their salah has no value to it. There's ghafla there, right? There's sahun. It's like they're forgetful in their prayer. They're talking to Allah every single day, but they have no idea what they're actually reciting in there. Meaning in terms of the meaning, in terms of what Allah wants you and I to understand from that. الَّذِينَ هُمْ يُرَاءُونَ. They just make a show of it. Whatever ibadah they're doing, it's just a show. Because the actual deep part of the deen, they're rejecting it, right? وَيَمْنَعُونَ الْمَاعُونَ. And what they prevent, what they forbid, what they withhold are even the ma'un. necessaries of life. Ma'un, which is what the surah is named after, is basically, if I were to describe it like this. There's one level of sadaqah, of helping people where, again, it's financial, it's monetary, and sometimes it's large amounts. Right? There are certain individuals who require constant upkeep because they don't have a job, they have no income, something happened, they lost their job, whatever it is. So they need usually thousands of dollars to help them out every month, which is a lot. Well, for some of us, maybe not too much, but for those individuals in that spot, that's a lot of money. They can't just make it up out of thin air. This is something beyond that, right? Because sometimes, we go to the side of the road, somebody there, $5, $10, and whatever, we move on. This is even simpler than that. Allah is saying, وَيَمْنَعُونَ الْمَاعُونَ. What is ma'un? Ma'un is the stuff that neighbors give out to one another. The simple pieces of assistance. The other day, I needed fish tape, it's called, right? Or a cable snake. So I asked the Magnolia group, and alhamdulillah, somebody helped out. Sometimes it happens where, does anybody have, this medicine? I need, children's Tylenol. I ran out of sugar. Anybody have any sugar? Right? Simple stuff like that. Hey, we're hosting a majlis. I need one of those bigger pots or a bigger pan or something like that. Can I borrow it? Those simple things that you and I kind of give away and easily hand out and share with one another as neighbors, as brothers and sisters, that's ma'un. Allah's saying that what happens is somebody who gets to this level, they start to forbid for themselves and for other people, don't even do this. Where if somebody comes and asks for a very simple favor, a neighborly favor, they even prevent something like that. What Allah's saying is, this simple method of assistance and help and taking care of one another, from the smallest things, they don't even like doing that. And this is a spiritual disease that exists in individuals. Salawat ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. Now look, sometimes it might be the case where, in the case of the Imam, okay, we have nothing to give. Right? They're coming, we're asking, hey, help us out with the budget. Help us out with Project Orange. Help us out with, this individual who's in need this time, whatever it is. And it might be the case that at that certain time, you and I are like, look, this month's a little rough. I don't have anything to give. It is possible. It could happen to some of us, right? So what do we do in that instance? What we see with the Imam, the precedence he's setting for us, is that there's got to be something you can offer. There's never a situation where we are completely empty-handed. Yes, maybe in an extreme situation, even sadaqah, even smile is sadaqah. I would say even that is a very, 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 very extreme situation. There's always going to be something that you and I can offer in a situation. So the principle for you and I is that, okay, what can I actually do to help this individual out? Or help the community out? Or help this family out? There's got to be something I can do. Maybe in the future, I can jump to the financial stuff, but right now, what is it? There's maybe something indirect, right? What the Imam does is obviously something very indirect, right? Go and do this, and then that'll yield you to getting a gift at the end, right? Oh, I forgot to mention that part of the story. So once this was recited, once he recited these lines to the Khalifa, then yeah, he left with a gift. The Khalifa gave him this large amount of money, and this person was able to use it, right? So that was the whole moral of the story there. The Imam sent him with these lines. He used those lines of poetry to help reduce the grief of the Khalifa, and the Khalifa gave him a gift, right, in the end of it. So he got what he needed, that khair. Now, for us, we can't give something physical, can't give something financial, sure. Do you know maybe, hey, I know so-and-so business or so-and-so company might be hiring. I can pass on that information to you. Or, I know somebody that helps out with resumes. Do you have a resume that maybe I can send it to them, they can take a look at it? Or, I know somebody who, I don't have any personal connections. Tell me the industry, I can pass it along my groups and maybe we can figure something else out. Right? Whatever that is. Or maybe it's something simple like financial advice. Right? I know everybody loves to talk about the financial stuff, right? All these tips. Sharing something simple like that, assuming it's a good tip, right? Because I know there's a lot of bad tips going around too. If it's a good tip, then what's really the harm in sharing that? Except the fact that that sometimes, when we share that, that might reduce somebody else's own profit, right? If I tell too many people, it might mess me up. So maybe I have to keep it to myself, right? Sometimes that happens as well. But regardless, if a person's creative enough, and if they're remembering that all that risk that comes to them, some amount of that is due for other people. Maybe it's financial, but maybe it's something else. A person has to be creative and ingenuitive enough to say, okay, I've got nothing to offer you for what you're asking right now. Let me think. Okay, you know what? Right now, I have nothing, but this is what I actually can offer you instead. It takes a few extra seconds, minutes, or maybe you need a few extra days to think about it. But if we're saying we have zero and nothing to give, this calls into question Allah being Ar-Razaq and Ar-Raziq, right? There must be something that has been provided to us. Even if it's something simple as providing somebody else a connection, networking job, something like that. It's up to you and I to figure out what that happens to be and what Allah has provided us with. Let me share this hadith from our 7th Imam, Imam Musa al-Kadhim alayhi salatu wassalam. He's reported to have said, عَوْنُكَ لِلضَّعِيفِ مِنْ أَفْضَلِ الصَّدَقَةِ. He says, your awn, your assistance to somebody who's da'if, who's in need, who's weak, who needs your help, this is probably the best afdal sadaqah. This is the best thing you could do. The Imam is not saying anything about giving money, giving charity. He's saying whatever assistance you can offer at that time. And it could be a lot of different things. Many people are looking for jobs. They're looking for some skill set. Maybe you can teach them. You can offer them something. Right? So any assistance that you and I can offer, we should try and push ourselves to do that. One more point, inshallah, that we will end with. This will be our final point. And this has to do with the connection between grief, huzn, poetry, and the idea of gifts, receiving and giving. Salawat ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. The Imam knew that if he sends this person to the Khalifa, he recites these words, the end result will be the Khalifa giving him, some gift, money or something like that, right? He knew that. And this happened to be something very, very famous within the Arab culture, is when people had recited, when people did something like this, they were excellent poets, they would be given gifts. You and I know very well that this is something that was a seerah of the Ahlul Bayt as well. This was a practice that happened all the time. They would invite poets, and they would give them large amounts. They would give them gifts. They would give them many different things. Sometimes the poets would come themselves, and then the Imam would leave them with the gift. Sometimes the Imam would invite the poet, right? So there's different instances, there's many there. Of course, one of the best forms in our riwayat is when somebody came and offered some nawha, some marsiya, some sort of elegy in praise or in speaking about the tragedy in Karbala of Imam al-Husseini alayhi salatu wassalam. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala. We have many different stories, right? I don't want to go through all of them. Maybe just one that's famous, at least I'll just give the conclusion, is the famous one during the time of Imam Rida alayhi salam, where Di'bil had come into his presence, Di'bil al-Khuzai, again, very famous poet. And in his presence, recited, very famous lines. And as he had left, the Imam sent one of his servants out to him, and he said, hold on, my master wants you to take this. And he gave him this bag of money. Right? He says, he wants you to use this for your travels, whatever expenditures you might have on your way. It was a large amount. It was 100 dinar. Again, we have no idea what dinar means. So remember, dirham, silver, dinar is gold. So it's 100 pieces of gold. One piece, this is dirham and dinar. I might have messed up exactly what was here. Khair. Whatever it was a large amount of money. And he gave it to Di'bil for his expenses. Di'bil immediately gives it back. He says, no, I didn't come here for this. This is not why I recite. I recite out of khulus, out of sincerity, out of my love for the Ahlul Bayt. That's why it's there. So he says, look, if my Mawla wants to give me something, ask for his libas. Ask, I want something like that. I want some cloth from him, something like that I can remember him by. Right? Some tabarruk like that. So he goes back and he actually ends up getting both. There's a piece of cloth and the Imam says, no, you have to take both of these things. Take this cloth, right, this piece of clothing from the Imam and the money. He's like, you'll need this in the future. And there's a long story about what was needed there. I'm not going to go through all of it because we're out of time. But this was, again, a normal practice where people would come and recite and the Imams would send and give them gifts. When people would come and teach the children of the Ahlul Bayt, they would teach them something like Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, the Imams would give those teachers gifts as well. So this thing is very famous. What we see now is different, is that reciters, Nawha Khans, speakers, ulama, instead of looking, using hadiyah in its actual meaning, which is a gift is something that usually a person decides, hey, I want to give you a gift. Now it's been flipped and said, no, I'm going to demand what gift you give me. I'm going to set a specific type of gift that's required. And now it's gone even beyond that, is that ahead of time, I'm going to let everybody know what sort of gift I have asked for, and I'm going to broadcast it to the world. Right? And I'm going to be very proud of that fact. I think everybody knows exactly what I'm talking about. Salawat ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. You see, the seerah that the Ahlul Bayt had left behind is that from the perspective of the listeners, from the lovers of Ahlul Bayt, the ones who want to hear the tragedy, who want to hear the fada'il of the Ahlul Bayt, yes, the proper reward is give a lot. That's fine. And that's what was mentioned. And that's what they had done. What we don't see is any of these poets ever coming to the Imam and saying, look, I'm going to recite for you, but you need to give me an awesome horse before I come, right? Before I leave, I need this kind of camel. Or telling people, hey, I recited for the Imam and this is what's going on. This sort of thing never happened before. But you see how quickly things have changed. In the way that we have treated and the way we deal with fuqara and masakeen, we flip that around too, by making the people feel ashamed for asking and making us feel like we're better than people who are asking for assistance. The same thing has been happening with the people who are reciting poetry in praise or in terms of the tragedy for the Ahlul Bayt. They flipped it around too. And we have flipped it around by saying, hey, what's your price? Tell us your price. Rather than saying, look, this is a hadiyah. It's a gift. Again, I'm not saying that they shouldn't get the world. Right? The Ahlul Bayt gave them a lot. The perspective of those who were doing it, though, is that no, we are doing this out of khulus. The Ahlul Bayt would always respond to them, look, they're not mutually exclusive. You can do something with sincerity, and we can also give you gifts too. That's okay. Never once in history, as far as I've seen, has anybody ever come to the Imam and say, look, this is the way it's going to be. I have these sort of requirements. What we always see is the opposite, rejection, rejection, rejection. And the Imam said, no, don't reject gifts like that. Don't ever reject something like that. You see how quickly things have become? Now look, a lot of us want to jump on these speakers or so-called scholars or Noha Khans and reciters and say, look, it's all their fault. They're asking for whatever, first-class tickets, the best hotel rooms, and all these types of things. Like, this is their problem. And they're asking for exorbitant fees. That's their problem. Say, hold on. The problem also, it's two ways. The problem is also us accepting it too, isn't it? The problem is also us accepting it. When we do that, we're feeding into a system that maybe shouldn't be there. If you and I are allowing for it to happen, they're going to keep doing it too. And if it's not being addressed publicly, then everybody's going to think it's normal. There's a reason why people can advertise it and blast it out, and people think, yeah, mashallah, this is amazing. This is what the real azadaran of the Ahlul Bayt and the Zakirin of Ahlul Bayt deserve. Where is that coming from? Now, it's interesting. If you look at the way, the poetry of those individuals around the time of the Ahlul Bayt, the way that they recited, what was in the words, the actual poetry, and compare it to what's recited right now, there's a world of difference. A world of difference. Now, again, it's tough to compare that classical, Arabic poetry with what's recited in different languages now. I'm not saying it's got to be, exact the same thing, but the nature of the information that's being delivered, the authenticity, right, the amount of stuff. What seems to be the case nowadays is that, yes, we have to sit in a studio. You have to make sure, the matam has a certain level of bass attached to it. We've got to have a lot of background music. I'm not saying it's all haram, by the way, but I'm just talking about there's something else that's going on behind the scenes. Before, the words were enough. The words were enough for even the likes of the Ahlul Bayt to shed tears and cry. But now it's like, no, we have to have a little bit more, right? This is not enough. Oh, this happened to the Ahlul Bayt, that's not going to make me cry, right? Maybe if there was a bit more reverb or some delay effect, maybe that'll add to the atmosphere. Again, I'm going to be clear, I'm not anti-reverb, I'm not anti-delay function. I know how a soundboard works. I'm not bad. If it helps somebody out, great. If it helps somebody, get to a status where they're able to cry for the Ahlul Bayt, that's okay, it's fine, nothing wrong with that. What I'm saying is that, as Allah is saying, little by little, these slippery slopes can have an effect negatively too. And it seems like it's had an effect on our communities, where it's now a normal practice that, let's say, what is your price? Fine. You want to come and recite one Nawha for us for $7,000? Okay, sure. And then the, response that certain people will give is, when these individuals come, the place is packed. Everybody comes out. And then we get a lot more, what happens? We get more donations because of that. What is the system then, right? It's just feeding itself over and over again. If we, on our own, were coming and donating and preparing for programs as we should, then we wouldn't have to rely on inviting people who are not sticking to the akhlaq of the Ahlul Bayt. Again, whether they're doing something haram or not, that's between them and their maraji. But is it in the spirit of the way azah should be done? Doesn't seem like it. Is it in the spirit, in the way that fada'il should be recited of the Ahlul Bayt? It doesn't seem like it. Again, am I saying that these individuals are going to hell? No, I'm not saying that, so don't take this out of context. What I'm saying is that when each of us are not fluent, we don't have this coherence with the way the Ahlul Bayt dealt with people in the exact same situation, then little by little, one part of the table goes, one leg goes, one by one. All this goes until it all collapses. And then people ask, what's going on right now? What's happening with the situation with Azadari and Matam and all this? Well, it happened. Certain people called it out, and then it didn't seem like it went anywhere from there, right? Little by little, these things come down, and then it ruins what was once a very pure institution, right? This idea of Azadari, which was there for individuals to come, shed their tears, and share love for the Ahlul Bayt. And there's so many stories that we could tell about the different way that some of the individuals, they dealt with the time of the Prophet, the Imam Ali, so many of them. Inshallah, maybe on another occasion. Again, this is a humble reminder for all of us that the system of finances that the Ahlul Bayt had set up is probably a lot different than what you and I visualize. Why? It's because a lot of us think of Islam as being some corporation or a business, right? Or again, it's a non-profit, so it's got to be envisioned like this. This is the way you raise funds. This is the way. Maybe, I'm not saying it's anti that, but maybe some of those points may be anti-Islamic or un-Islamic. Or the thinking behind it might be problematic. And it's allowing for other people, right? That's why, for certain people, we don't call it a hadiyah anymore. It's like, what's your honorarium, right? What's your stipend, right? They're not academics. They're not coming and delivering a workshop or a lecture, right? That's the word you use over there. We want to invite a doctor, a qualified PhD, which we're, as far as the Muslim ones, we're losing one by one. Not too many qualified ones nowadays, but yeah, you want to invite them, give them an honorarium. They can ask for whatever. Every paper I deliver is going to be 5,000. You want to pay? Fine, go ahead. The academic world is different. When we're talking about the world of the Ahlul Bayt, connection with the Ahlul Bayt, it should be closer to the akhlaq and the seerah of the Ahlul Bayt, alayhimu salatu wa salam, salawat ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. One more salawat ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. We would expect that on the night where we commemorate the Shahadat of Imam Hassan, tonight on the 7th of Safar, according to, again, a few reports, that we would go through his musibah and his masa'ib. It's also the ayam of Azza, where we still also remember Imam Hussein as well. And it's very fitting that nearly all of the musibat, all of the masa'ib that one brother went through, the other one went through as well. And you see that all throughout their lives. From the beginning, the story that all of us remember, even as children, when Imam Hussein, Imam Hassan are younger, and it's Eid, and they are outside, and they see all the other children in Medina. They see them walking around and running around on Eid with new clothes, brand new, bright, colorful clothing, these new thobes. They come back and they complain, Ya Rasulullah, Ya Jadda, everyone else has all these great clothes, we don't have anything new for Eid, we have nothing for today. And this breaks Rasulullah's heart. Jibreel comes down and says, I've prepared something. And he gives them these brand new white thobes. And of course, Imam Hassan, Imam Hussein, as children, they do shukr. They say, yes, but these are beautiful, they're white, but everybody else, they have these bright, beautiful colors. What about us? Can we have some colors on ours too? And he says, yes. He asks for a tub. Rasulullah, Jibreel work together. As he puts it in, Jibreel tells Rasulullah, ask each of them for which colors they want. Imam Hassan says, I want green. I want green for mine. Rasulullah wrings it out and takes out this green one for Imam Hassan. He puts in Imam Hussein's thobe. He says, Ya Hussein, Ya Bunayya, what do you want? He says, I want red. He wrings that out and he gives him this red one. Jibreel begins crying. You all know the story. Jibreel cries. Rasulullah's like, this is Eid. Ya Jibreel. Ya Amin Allah, why are you crying? Why are you crying on an Eid? Look at my grandchildren, they're so happy today. What's making you cry? He says, these colors that they picked, you don't know what spiritual effects these colors have on them. You don't know what I know. Let me tell you that this same color green, Hassan will turn green from the poison that will be given to him. And this color red that Hussein has chosen, this color red, it's because his whole body will be filled with red on the day of Ashura. And then Rasulullah then begins to cry as well. This is how the masa'ib of Hassan and Hussein are there. Now we fast forward to the time when they are both losing their father, Imam Ali. When right after Imam is struck on the head in sujood, when the head of Ali is in the lap of Imam Hassan, Imam Ali feels a tear on his head. He looks up and says, Ya Bunayya, oh my son, why are you crying? Don't worry, these things happen, it's not a big deal. He says, don't worry, very soon you and your brother will go through difficulties just like mine. Just like I was struck with a poisoned sword, you will be poisoned and your brother will be struck with a sword as well. You'll go through the same masa'ib that I have gone through as well. Then we fast forward and we see at the time when Imam Hassan, when his janazah is being taken out, when his taboot is there and his request is to be buried with his jad, to be buried with his Rasulullah, he wants to be with his nana. As he's being taken there, these mal'oon, these munafiqeen shoot arrow after arrow into the body of Imam Hassan. The taboot makes its way back, and when it comes back, Hussein and Abbas put the body down. They begin taking arrow after arrow out there. Zainab comes in. And this one thing that Hussein and Hassan had in common is they never wanted to break the heart of Zainab. When they come in, Hussein sees Zainab. She comes and grabs the arrows and starts to pull them out. Abbas and Hussein say, Zainab, this is not a job for you to do. Let us take care of it. She says, no, this is my brother. I get to help him as well. And begins to pull the arrows out one by one. Zainab on Ashura, when you are being taken on your through the battlefield on Sham-e-Ghariba, when you see the arrows in the body of Hussein, you won't be able to take any of them out over there. And the final thing that we remember is when Imam Hassan was on his deathbed, when he had that bowl with him, the same way he didn't want Zainab to go with that pain, he would spit in little parts of his kidney and his liver into this bowl. Whenever he would hear that Zainab was coming, he would hide it over there. And Zainab would come walking in, says, what are you hiding from me, akhi? What do you hide from me? He says, I don't want you to grieve and go through any pain like this.
الذين ظلموا أي منقلب ينقلبون إنا لله وإنا إليه راجعون رضا بقضائه وتسليما لأمره. ماتم حسین.
تابوت حسن لائے شبیر اٹھا کے تابوت حسن لائے شبیر اٹھا کے امت نے دیا پر سامگر تیر چلا کے تابوت حسن لائے شبیر اٹھا کے قاسم سے کہو جاتا ہے با کا جنازہ قاسم سے کہو جاتا ہے با کا جنازہ پھر دیکھنا قسمت میں نہیں دیکھ لے آ کے تابوت حسن لائے شبیر اٹھا کے دیکھی نہ گئی ماں سے یتیمی کی وہ صورت دیکھی نہ گئی ماں سے یتیمی کی وہ صورت کش کر گئی قاسم کو کلے جیسے لگا کے تابوت حسن لائے شبیر اٹھا کے دیکھا کیے زینب کو کبھی یاس سے شبیر دیکھا کیے زینب کو کبھی یاس سے شبیر بھائی کا گلا چوما کبھی اشک بہا کے تابوت حسن لائے شبیر اٹھا کے بکھرے ہوئے ٹکڑے ہے دلے سبت نبی کے بکھرے ہوئے ٹکڑے ہے دلے سبت نبی کے آثار لگے کرب و بلا کے تابوت حسن لائے شبیر اٹھا کے حیدر کو کیا قتل دیا زہر حسن کو حیدر کو کیا قتل دیا زہر حسن کو شبیر کو مارے گئے مہمان بنا کے تابوت حسن لائے شبیر اٹھا کے ہائے پامال بے خطا قاسم 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 کتنے ٹکڑوں کتنے ٹکڑوں میں بٹ گیا قاسم ہائے پامال بے خطا قاسم ہائے پامال بے خطا قاسم ہائے پامال بے خطا قاسم کتنے ٹکڑوں میں بٹ گیا قاسم ہائے پامال بے خطا قاسم ہائے پامال بے خطا قاسم ہائے پامال بے خطا قاسم شاہ ٹکڑوں کو چومتے تھے یوں شاہ ٹکڑوں کو چومتے تھے یوں شاہ ٹکڑوں کو چومتے تھے یوں شاہ ٹکڑوں کو چومتے مجتبیٰ کا تھا آئینہ قاسم ہائے پامال بے خطا قاسم ہائے پامال بے خطا قاسم ہائے پامال بے خطا قاسم کیسے فروا کو شاہ بتلائے 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 اپنے بابا سے جا ملا قاسم ہائے پامال بے خطا قاسم ہائے پامال بے خطا قاسم ہائے پامال بے خطا قاسم در پہ خیمے کے گر گئی زینب 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 اپنے گورے سے جب گرا قاسم ہائے پامال بے خطا قاسم ہائے پامال بے خطا قاسم ہائے پامال بے خطا قاسم باب زہرا جلانے والوں نے 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 تیرا لاشا کچل دیا قاسم ہائے پامال بے خطا قاسم ہائے پامال بے خطا قاسم ہائے پامال بے خطا قاسم بات غازی کو یہ رلاتی ہے 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 مجھ سے پہلے فدا ہوا قاسم ہائے پامال بے خطا قاسم ہائے پامال بے خطا قاسم ہائے 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 پامال بے خطا قاسم 14 صدیاں گزر گئی لیکن 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 تیرا ماتم تیرا ماتم تیرا ماتم ہے ہر جگہ قاسم ہائے پامال بے خطا قاسم ہائے پامال بے خطا قاسم ہائے پامال بے خطا قاسم
اما فیضا بتا دے مجھ کو پتھر کیوں آ رہے ہیں اما فیضا بتا دے مجھ کو پتھر کیوں آ رہے ہیں اما فیضا بتا دے مجھ کو پتھر کیوں آ رہے ہیں کیسا ہے یہ چراغا دل ڈوبے جا رہے ہیں کیا شام آ گیا ہے اما فیضا بتا دے مجھ کو پتھر کیوں آ رہے ہیں اما فیضا بتا دے مجھ کو پتھر جزاک اللہ آ رہے ہیں ہونے لگی اذانیں کیسے سروں کو ڈھانپے ارے بازو بندھے ہوئے ہیں خون رو رہی ہے آنکھیں آنکھوں کے خون سے رستے خون میں نہا رہے ہیں کیا شام آ گیا ہے اما فیضا ہائے بتا دے مجھ کو پتھر کیوں آ رہے ہیں اما فیضا بتا دے مجھ کو پتھر کیوں آ رہے ہیں سجاد کا کلیجہ صد پاش ہو رہا ہے ایک ایک زخم ان کا اس غم میں رو رہا ہے زینب کا نام لے کر زینب کا نام لے کر آدھا بلا رہے ہیں کیا شام آ گیا ہے اما فیضا بتا دے مجھ کو پتھر کیوں آ رہے ہیں اما فیضا ہے بتا دے مجھ کو پتھر کیوں آ رہے ہیں نیزوں پہ جتنے سر ہیں ایک سر ہے ان میں سا ارے آنکھیں بندی ہے اس کی اور خاک پر ہے گرتا عباس کا یہ سر ہے عباس کا یہ سر ہے اماں فضا بتا دے مجھ کو پتھر کیوں آ رہے ہیں اماں فضا ہے بتا دے مجھ کو پتھر کیوں آ رہے ہیں اتنا چلے ہیں پیدل کانٹوں پہ سارے قیدی ارے تھک جاتی چلتے چلتے چلتی اگر زمیں بھی پیڑوں کے آبلے بھی آنسو بہا رہے ہیں کیا شام آ گیا ہے اماں فضا ہائے بتا دے مجھ کو پتھر کیوں آ رہے ہیں اماں فضا ہائے بتا دے مجھ کو پتھر کیوں آ رہے ہیں نیزے پہ رو رہا ہے مشکل کشا کا بیٹا نامحرموں کے لب پر آیا جو نام میرا مجھ کو کنیز زادے مجھ کو کنیز زادے یوں ہی بلا رہے ہیں کیا شام آ گیا ہے اماں فضا جزاک اللہ بتا دے مجھ کو ہے پتھر کیوں آ رہے ہیں لوگ کس طرح کے ہم سے دعا کرائیں اے قیدیو دعا دو یہ دن نہ ہم پہ آئے لے کر دعائیں ہم سے لے کر دعائیں ہم سے دل بھی دکھا رہے ہیں کیا شام آ گیا ہے اماں فضا بتا دے مجھ کو پتھر کیوں آ رہے ہیں اماں فضا ہے بتا دے مجھ کو پتھر کیوں آ رہے ہیں ماں کی گودیوں سے لپٹے ہوئے ہیں بچے ہے ہاتھ رسیوں میں ماں کے سے جکڑے بچے جو گر رہے ہیں بچے جو گر رہے ہیں وہ مرتے جا رہے ہیں کیا شام آ گیا ہے اماں فضا ہائے بتا دے مجھ کو پتھر کیوں آ رہے ہیں اماں فضا ہائے بتا دے مجھ کو پتھر کیوں آ رہے ہیں سورۃ الفاتحہ
بسم اللہ الرحمن الرحیم اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد السلام عليك يا رسول الله السلام عليك يا حبيب الله السلام عليك يا خاتم النبيين السلام عليك يا أمير المؤمنين يا سيد الوصيين السلام عليك يا فاطمة الزهراء سيدة النساء العالمين السلام عليك يا حسن بن علي المجتبى السلام عليك يا حسين بن علي الشهيد بكربلاء السلام على الحسين وعلى علي بن الحسين وعلى أولاد الحسين وعلى أصحاب الحسين. السلام عليك يا محمد بن علي الباقر وجعفر بن محمد الصادق وموسى بن جعفر الكاظم وعلي بن موسى الرضا ومحمد بن علي الجواد وعلي بن محمد الهادي والحسن بن علي العسكري. السلام عليك يا حجة الله يا ابن الحسن يا صاحب العصر والزمان سيدي الأمان الأمان والأمان. السلام عليك يا خليفة الرحمن ويا كعبة الإيمان جميعا ورحمة الله وبركاته. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. اللهم كن لوليك الحجة بن الحسن صلواتك عليه وعلى آبائه في هذه الساعة وفي كل ساعة وليا وحافظا وقائدا وناصرا ودليلا وعينا حتى تسكنه أرضك توعا وتمتعه فيها طويلا برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين.